tune in at the end of the video for a sneak peek of the Pennsylvania Pickle, available now on YouTube.
The Angry Birds movie. I remember back in the days when this little gaming app climbed up the ranks to become one of the biggest video game icons, almost in the levels of Mario and Pokemon. In fact, I remember I was an avid player of the games during the end of high school and college. I can even point out which classrooms were graveyards to many pigs. I might have been caught a few times by the teachers during class, but that's not the point. I'm not going to blame anyone if they believe that a movie based on a simple game like this is rather ludicrous. I mean, there is some truth to that statement. But considering that Ravio, the company behind the franchise, is at the brink of shutting down, so they created this film as a last resort, I can also understand of its existence. But when it comes to the movie itself, can it reach the high standards like how the app did for video games? Or will the birds not be the only ones to get angry? Let's find out. The story. When you're given material as simple as a game you play on your phone like Angry Birds, there wouldn't be much to work with to give out a worthwhile story, and that's pretty much what happened here. For the most part, the story and the writing just passes off as rather weak, with the three acts totally separate from one another. In the first act, that's where we get to know Red and the world the movie is set in. This is where it has such a mean-spirited tone where it tries to emphasize that Red is angry because everybody is being a jerk to him his whole life. The second act is where the pigs would come in and try to make peace with the birds in order to secretly steal their eggs. Considering how the audience knows that the pigs are villains, this is where the film becomes predictable and cliched. I mean, of course people will hate Red more because only he doesn't trust the pigs. Also, this would be the weakest part of the film since there are some plot elements that don't really make sense and have a never-ending supply of dumb gags when the main characters go and meet the mighty eagle. But then comes the third act. This is where it rightfully decides to give up trying to build up some kind of story and completely focuses on all the slingshot action and destruction in order to save the eggs. In a way, it kind of saves the whole movie since it delivers exactly what anyone would want to see in an Angry Birds movie. However, with that said, there is also the humor that plays a big part in the film, since it does aim to be more of a comedy. I won't say that the jokes are all awful, since there are some that can bring out a good laugh, but a lot of it is going for some lowbrow slapstick that could end up being both juvenile and sometimes annoying.
Hello, world! I'm calling for you!
Stop making mighty eagle noises!
Sure, this is not the best story that's out there, but considering that this is the Angry Birds movie, this level of quality is kind of expected. The animation. Rather you love or hate this movie, one thing that nobody can deny is that the animation does its job as an Angry Birds movie, and it does that very well. Sure, the birds and pigs seem a bit more different than how they appear in the games, but it's a nice update so that they could have arms and legs. Even with those, the overall design still managed to capture the look of the original games. You could still tell how characters like Red, Chuck, Bomb, and the pigs are easily identifiable to their video game counterparts. On top of that, an amazing feat that the animators pull off is all the individual birds in the island, where even the extras look creatively unique and make the visuals overall very colorful. Maybe the entirety of the island does look pretty nice as well, including the Mighty Eagle's cave, but it doesn't really stand out as much as the birds themselves. As for the character animation, it tries to execute this highly energetic cartoony style that actually works pretty well. Of course, the animators try to pull out all their punches with Chuck, but the overall execution makes it more fun and not overbearing that it hinders on the quality. But then Then comes the third act when it fully becomes Angry Birds. That's when the animation truly shines than ever before. For every bird getting slingshot to the beautiful layout of Piggy Island and Leonard's Castle to all the amazing effects when the birds destroy a building or blow things up, this is where the movie becomes worthwhile. The fast pace that this film delivers with all the gags and action is where the movie knows exactly where it's going and becomes engaging and even enjoyable. Even if this is not the best animated film of the year, it certainly is one of the better looking ones. The characters. Sure, we remember what the birds can do to save the eggs, but they're not meant to be memorable as characters, since most of them come off as rather generic. Starting off with Red, he's the one that has anger issues that's more of an outcast, but would later be in charge of saving the eggs. The only reason why the audience would want to side with him is not because he's a well-written character, but because everyone around him is so despicable. All the other birds try so hard to be happy that being angry is considered a crime. Plus how everybody's been so mean to him, whether it be through his anger issues or his eyebrows, it becomes easily understandable why Red is angry. He lives in an island full of horrible birds. There are only a handful of characters that are a bit of an exception, or at least less hateable. Chuck is the hyper friend whose joke is that he's always fast and it can either pass off as either funny or just annoying. Bum is more the dumber one. Matilda is the anger management instructor that's full of zen, but secretly has some issues of her own. And Terrence can arguably be the most likable character with all the gags this film executes of him being the mysteriously silent giant. As for the pigs, on paper they're just the bland villains. There's nothing much about them other than they just want to eat eggs. However, in practice, they're actually pretty funny. They're kind of the saving grace of the second act and can deliver a wonderful performance thanks to both the animators and Bill Hader as Leonard.
Oh, where are we going? Wrong way.
Oopsie, not working.
We practice this 100 times. Give it to me. We're gonna come in again.
And then there is also the Mighty Eagle, whom could have been enjoyable in the right hands, but he just feels like a one-note joke about all he does is admire how great he is or how he actually was. As for the other characters that came from the games like Hal, Bubbles, the Blues, and Stella, they're just that. Their only purpose is to be references to the games. There are characters that will leave you with a bit of a bad taste, but there will also be a few that can be passable. I'll give it this, it may not be all that good, but at least it turned out a lot better than Ratchet & Clank. The Angry Birds movie does suffer from a poorly made story and rather generic characters, but thanks to the well-crafted animation and a fantastic third act that successfully captures the spirit of the games, the movie may be far from being considered great, but surprisingly, it's not that bad. Of course, kids will definitely get a kick out of it, but for everyone else, keep in mind that this is the kind of film where the title explains everything. It's the Angry Birds movie. If you enjoy films like Minions or you think you could get some enjoyment out of it, then you would. If you think that just the idea alone of an Angry Birds movie is entirely stupid, then yeah, the movie really is. At least we can all agree that for a concept that's as dumb as Angry Birds, it could have been a lot worse.
And now, here is a sneak peek of the Pennsylvania Pickle. If you would like to know more about the Pennsylvania Pickle, then all you have to do is click on the link in the description, or you can click on this pickle that'll be present throughout the preview. So now just sit back and enjoy the adventure.
He has hostages, and he is about to announce his demand.
I want a glorious erection. That's right, a statue built of me in my honor.
Pickle, what are you doing?
If anyone's getting an erection, it's gonna be me. Time to polish my pickle. Here's my hard, crisp pickle.
Ow!
There is poop in my diaper. Who pooped in your diaper?
I did.